Okay, welcome back after lunch. I hope you enjoyed it. We definitely we did. My name is Andrei Girenko, and I will continue. And the order of our presentation has been changed because our Spanish colleagues are not here yet, but they will come. So then we will turn to the other topics. But I would like to spend a few minutes on the topic which is probably not as well discussed as other more technology or pedagogy related topics. It's the money, the business, how MOOCs as an activity can be planned and supported with resources. There's no kind of common agreement or consensus about the business models for MOOCs. It's a new activity which started as an initiative, as a kind of free movement. But you know, the same happens what happened to social media, which originally was created as a tool to speak to friends. And now this is a multi-billion industry. So, a few words about myself, just to say that I am qualified for business planning and modeling. So currently I am running the company which is part of the consortium of Competencia, and we provide services for projects. We provide innovation services for spin-off, scale-up companies. Also, I work for the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence as a research administrator. This organization is the world's largest research center in the field of artificial intelligence in terms of research budget and number of personnel employed. And recently, we started a company where we also did a lot of business planning and business modeling. This is a company which brings some technologies from DFKI to the market. But when I was working 2009, 2013, I worked for e-learning technologies. It's a competence center inside DFKI. And we also developed solutions which were later put on the market. And I was also involved in business planning and modeling. What I would like to present you today is a kind of four bullets. We will look at MOOCs as a business, as an industry which is emerging right now. We will see how from really massive, open online courses, this course is right now becoming not quite massive and not quite open, because there are monetization mechanisms already well in place. We will take a look at the very simple, but at the same time very used model for describing different business models. It's so-called Osterwalder business model canvas. You will have it as a kind of homework. You will try to fill in this canvas for a MOOC which either you are involved in, or we have the MOOC which will be developed within the project here in Malaysia. We will look very briefly into the resources. What do you need to develop a MOOC? In terms of human capital, in terms of other things, and try to estimate. This is really important because although it looks like all is given, every time you need to understand what it would cost you in terms of time, at least. And then we will try to look into the issues of monetization, how you can make money out of it, or how you can at least cover investments in the MOOC development. Well, speaking about MOOCs as a product, you can see that this is the thing which has all traditional aspects of a product. First of all, it has a customer. There's someone who consumes this product. It's a learner. Sometimes customer can be not necessarily a learner itself, like himself, herself, but it might be a corporate customer who orders you to develop a MOOC for its corporate needs. In this case, your customer is not the learner. But anyway, in any case, when you do a MOOC, you do it for someone. In order for MOOC to be accepted and be successful, it must bring an added value, like any other traditional product. You have to understand what it gives to your customer, what kind of business pain it satisfies, reduces. It has very clearly defined, even in this room, distribution channels. You bring your product to a customer. You allow a customer to use the product on a regular basis or within the regime which we agreed on. There are costs involved. There are actually, which we didn't discuss, but there are legal relations involved, mutual responsibilities, mutual liabilities. So all these aspects which you normally don't think about, they are present. And that all makes MOOC a product. But if so, it must, first of all, comply with particular regulation. I'm sure that there is a consumer protection regulation like everywhere. And even in this respect, you have to look into your development. Turning MOOC into the business, it's not something new. It happens many times when it comes to education. Many other educational initiatives, they, this way or another, turn into the economic activities. And now there is a common trend when education becomes a service. When the society needs particular things, it needs labor force above all, educated with particular qualities. An education system is in charge of providing this kind of, it's a production of this labor force. Within this trend, MOOC is quite naturally becomes an economic activity. Development of MOOC, right from the moment when you decide to go for that, up to the moment when it's forgotten, it's a typical project life cycle with all aspects of a project. First of all, what is a project? Project is a goal-oriented undertaking implemented with its so-called triple constraints. This is specification, money, and time. So in this case, when you do MOOCs, try to do it as a project with clear defined goal, what you want to achieve, setting very clear time frame for that, and also being aware of the financial and resource implications. Well, now we're coming to the point we speak about the industry of MOOCs as an industry. This is the figures at the end of 16, and only in this year, number of people subscribed to MOOCs increased up to 23 million people, reaching the total number of 58 million people subscribed. And this is already a significant customer base. Even if you take into, if you look into the history, let's say very famous examples, let's say Facebook or Skype, this was exactly the borderline. After that, the exponential, explosive growth of the system, of the customer base started. In terms of ranking of different MOOC providers, you see that Coursera, of course, takes far leading position, followed by edX. What is interesting, for the first time appeared and already immediately taking third place is a Chinese platform with claimed 6 million subscribers. And further down. But again, the trend here is that it's not only growth of population in the mainstream providers. There's emergence of regional platforms, national platforms, even some big universities. Yeah.
Hi. Out of that customer base, do we know how many are actually fee kind of base, or the other one is free?
I will come to this point. Not exactly, but we will see at least the money involved. The money generated there. There's emergence of platforms which are run by legal entities, but single legal entities like university. Although it's quite difficult to run a 24/7 environment which can serve thousands of students simultaneously, still some go for that expenses. In terms of content offering, by the end of 2016, almost 7,000 courses were available. Traditional provider of courses, the universities, and the platforms is kind of delivery mechanism. Only in this year, in 2016, 2,600 new courses have been made available. And in terms of topics, you also know there's a very clear statistics that most popular courses are in the field of applied sciences, such as technology, programming, data science, these disciplines, and businesses. But also there are segments in medical studies, humanities, quite a diversity. As I said, we more or less have a data, economic data for 5 years. In terms of business, it's almost nothing. It's a very, very unpredictable and fast-changing environment. Again, the main MOOC providers are universities. Although this trend, starting from 2016, is changing now. There are new MOOC providers which are business entities, communities, business entities which provide MOOCs for their internal staff, personnel, or for just for money generation. If you look at the figures about investments from 11 to 16, within 5 years, major platforms managed to secure of venture capital in the sum of 400 million euro. And now they employ about 1,000 people. For a venture capitalist, the figure of 400 euro can say a lot, because the typical practice and approach of venture capitalists is that they look at the value of the company they invest in and try to invest roughly 1/3 of the value, which means that you can easily calculate that In the view of venture capitalists, the value of MOOC providers now is roughly 1.2, 1.5 billion as a market estimation. And well, by corporate standards, it's nothing particular, nothing spectacular, but from zero to that moment in 5 years, it's a significant progress. And also, this fact says that venture capitalists see and understand very well how they will have their exit strategy. Because they put money there for having that money returned within lifetime, let's say 5-6 years, typical exit strategy period. So they expect to return more than 400, definitely more than 400 million US dollars, euro. Now it's more or less the same. But these people who give this money, they would never do it without seeing clear perspective to get their money back. And this is clearly happening. Although in 2016 there were no major announcement of venture capital acquisitions in this branch, in this area, and it also says that there is kind of waiting. They're looking how the return will be done. Within this year, the 3 big course providers already raised about 100 million euro in revenues. And these revenues mainly came from paying for certificates and paying for courses which became available in 2016 pure for money. And this is also a change in focus. If before focus was on those who take MOOCs mainly because of curiosity or just as lifelong learners, as those who want to supplement their studies. Now focus is on the professional learners, those who learn for the result and ready to pay for that. How does it impact on the design of MOOCs? Clearly, first of all, MOOCs, as I said, M is not more for massive any longer. Courses are getting shorter, smaller, more often, and with less people per course. Various certification options, starting from traditional credentials down to inventing new, like, for instance, micro master or nano certificate ways of certifying their courses or their blocks of courses. But the basic idea is just really to make options really broad and tailored to the needs of each individual learner, and makes payments bound to the result. It means that you don't just pay for studying, you pay for acquiring certificates, which can be later converted into the credit points, and eventually you can also pay for the degree. And this is, as always happens on the market, offers, they follow the demand. There is a clear demand for that. And mainly demand is fueled by the situation in America, where the skyrocketing tuition fees led already to the situation when, for instance, some numbers are just really interesting. The student debt, total integrated student debt in the United States within 2002, 2012, in 10 years, doubled, reaching the number of 1.2 trillion US dollars and beating in this respect the housing debt. And this is already a serious problem. And as a result of that, first of all, students, they're looking and asking themselves whether it's worth investing in the traditional education. At the same time, universities in the United States, they also try to reduce the costs by diversifying the options. And I saw some publications where, for instance, the same master degree in MIT in sciences, students can get in a traditional way, campus-based, or in a blended way, where the part of the course is provided as MOOC. And the biggest part of the study, of course, is still campus-based. In the first case, the cost is roughly 60,000 US dollars per degree. In the second, 47, 13,000 US dollars difference makes a difference. As I said, the trend to reducing the size of the course, making more often options to subscribe, transformed the traditional MOOC when there was one large course with tens of thousands of people available, attached to a semester in the university and available once or twice a year, into sort of Netflix experience when you just buy content through your smart TV, where you can subscribe more or less at any moment of time. Typically, for instance, Coursera has an option now that courses, they automatically restarted every 2 weeks. And you can buy content blocks by blocks in small volumes and pay only upon completion and receiving the certificate. And this is the way it goes, and the trend is more and more obvious. Again, the main monetization instrument is paying for certification. Although now, if we speak about new courses, period 16, 17, very few of them, they are completely free of charge. Nowadays, whatever new emerges, you have to pay. And not only for the certification, sometimes also some materials, some tests, they're behind the paywall, and to get it, you need to pay. Also important that almost all providers, they provide full degrees. So you can get full degree fully online. As I said, the trend also, this is growth of regional, institutional, national providers. There are new platforms launched by Italy, of course, China. India is about to release its national MOOC platform, and some other examples. There is a French platform targeting Francophonia world. This is also the second, the last trend on this slide, business to business, is getting really important because the industry started looking into this instrument as a way to improve the competitiveness, as a way to provide educational services to the workers. And this also creates opportunities for universities to become this kind of developers on demand or by order. As an example, I can, for instance, give you an example. DFKI, the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, following the order of Airbus. You know Airbus, it's a large European conglomerate. Right now develops a MOOC for personnel on workplaces, which can be also continuously updated following the development if needed. And of course, Airbus employs tens of thousands of people, and there are always chance for them to improve their qualification. Now we can just look into how to make a business model, and then first of all we understand what is the difference between business modeling and business planning. You hear time to time there is a business model and there is a business plan, and the company announced a new business plan to do something. In fact, business model, it's a very brief description how you're going to make money, how the business operates in very general terms. At the same time, business plan, it's a provided structure, how it will do so. And this structure is time-bound. It looks into the future for at least 3 to 5 years, providing very detailed and very, I wanted to say precise, but in this case, in this business, there is nothing precise, but estimation, what would happen at the particular moments of time in terms of business development, in terms of finances. And the question is always, why do companies or even universities do business plans? Why? Do you have any opinion? Why do people need business plans? Yes, this is a really good answer, because normally people say just to follow and just some development and to see how I follow the development. But fundamentally, major reason to do business plan is to get investments, to get money. Because if you ask for, if you go to the bank and say, okay, I need 5 million for my business. They said, it's very nice, but why do you need this money for? What you going to do with this money? And how are you going to pay them back to me? I need to know. And then the business plan is exactly the document which describes how business will work, how investments will be spent, and how return on investments will be organized. Yeah, this is why companies need a business plan. I have this kind of canvas. It's a very simple form which allows you to formalize a business model. It was in this particular way developed by the still young person named Osterwalder. You can look into the Wikipedia. But also there are many, if you just put into the Google business model canvas, you will have millions of pictures, but all of them are the same way. How it's structured? It's very simple. Although it's on the very right side of it, but this is a central point of any business model. This is a so-called customer segment. It says, who is your customer? And everything else is built around it. You need to understand for whom you provide your service, for whom you develop your product. And this very much relates to MOOC. You have to understand who is your learner, if a learner pays, who is your corporate customer, if corporate customer offers you, orders you MOOC development. But you have to have a clear picture. Very important. This is the second big part of it. It's called value proposition. You need to understand what is the pain of your customer. What can make the life of your customer easier? What kind of added value you can deliver to the customer, and the customer will be happy to pay it. And actually, the question is why this customer will be happy to pay you and not to someone else. What is special about you, about your product? When you do MOOC, you have to clearly understand what will distinguish you from all others. The other things, they're already kind of secondary. You have to look into what kind of customer relations you already have with your customer. Are you connected? Or you need to get connected? And how you can make it? What are the channels? How you will get to your customer? How you will inform your potential learners that you have a beautiful, best-in-the-world MOOC? You need to understand what kind of distribution capabilities you have. Will your customer be able to consume your content if they run a very basic mobile telephone, not a smartphone? Or they have very bad connectivity? You need to look into the key resources necessary for the course development. Well, key activities you need to implement in order to make it happen. And the key partners. Well, of course, if you look very, very small font, not readable, but if you go to readable version of this document, you can read that there are some comments on it and you can follow. Important, very difficult, most difficult part of it, it's a bottom. Cost structure. What do you need? What kind of cost you will incur if you do it? And revenue streams. Where can you get the money? Who will pay? How much? Eventually, on the level of business model, this information is quite general. You don't need to get exactly the figure, how much money, how much revenues we will get in the fourth quarter of 2018. For the business plan, you will have to do it. But here you just say that the payer is the student. It will pay for the certificate after the end of the completion of the course. Or the payer will be the public authorities who will, through the program, state-funded program, supporting, provide public subsidies, and that will be paid. Or my university will provide my personal working time in kind for the development of this MOOC. So this is kind of things you have to put here. I thought that we could try to do it together, all together for the MOOC, but probably it might be a kind of homework for you. I could just, I know that within this project, Competencia, USM will be involved in the development of MOOC for single mothers in Malaysia. In terms of the content, the MOOC will provide kind of basic economic knowledge and skills to these people in order to enable them to have better opportunities, which are not there right now. In this case, already now, speaking about customer, we have already customer, single mother. You can think about what kind of business pain, what kind of needs this person has, which this MOOC has to address. What kind of limitation in terms of time availability, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of financial resources this person has. Also, you have to put it into the canvas. I would say you have to get into the shoes of this person and try walking, and just to understand how the learning should be organized the way that it would be feasible. And this person will start and will complete the course, although it is difficult. And after that, you can just come up with your value proposition, which would include, of course, somehow it should relate to the content, what you will deliver, how you will deliver, what is special about this way of learning or studying in comparison to other options this exactly person has, and why this is better than anything which exists. Very often in this place, people write so-called unique selling proposition, something which makes you unique. You have to try to come up with something like that, which makes you unique. And if you succeeded with this, this is already the structured way to understand what is needed, what will be the result, and what kind of resources you will need and you can bring in order to match resources with costs with resources. So I would, if you're comfortable with that, I will just leave you with the canvas, and you can try writing things at home after this workshop. If you will have any questions, so there will be my email. You can just drop me anytime email, and then we can speak online, whatever. But this is the exercise which people in universities normally never do. Never do. Because for us, I also a university person, for us things are given for granted. So we have rooms, we have salaries, our time costs nothing, yeah? So we can do even MOOCs. But at the same time, if you start putting things together, you will see that it's not quite true. And I will try to show you that it's not quite true. I give you an example of the costs associated with the development of a MOOC. This is the MOOC in the field of sciences, natural sciences. This is a 6-week long course, not a big one. It planned for be delivered 3 times, and every time delivery there is a kind of update which will require maybe 20% of resources. All the data was provided by the University of Paul and Marie Curie in France. It's more known as Paris 6, University in Paris 6. And actually this data was discussed in the community, but also it was, of course, it's kind of European data, yeah? It's a reality of Europe. But it was also checked against there was sanity checked against some American standards and American situation, and it was considered adequate and appropriate. So this is the estimation of the pedagogical staff time needed for the development of that MOOC. As you see, this is the initial development, and then there's 2 updates for the next delivery. And this is done in hours. And different types of tasks which you need to perform to develop a MOOC. Of course, exercises, it's not only developing, it's dependent not only on the discipline, but also on the technologies and what kind of exercises. If you have interactive, complicated exercises, that will cost much more time to you. But still, you can see that eventually, if you have animation, so you need to have 520 hours of only pedagogical stuff, professors, teachers. For pedagogical support, it's another good sum. And here you see that there is a project manager involved. So you need someone who will manage everything. And this is technical support. Oh, I forgot to check the title. Technical support. This is already a lower qualified personnel, but still you need things like formatting texts, editing videos, so things which can be done by technicians. But you still need this time. This is number of hours. If you convert this all into money, applying, of course, French salary standards, which in this particular case, the assumption was that a teacher costs something like 5,000 euro a month and technician 4,000 euro a month. So you end up that this course, in terms of personnel, would cost you almost 50,000 euro. Of course, you can say that it very much differs depending on the country, on technology, subject. So this is very particular course was estimated, but it gives you at least the order of numbers. This is expensive. And the initial idea of a MOOC, of something which can be easily developed and cut the costs, is not true. It's just not true. MOOCs are expensive. If you put on top of the sum indirect costs, which we also in universities now practices, we think that they don't exist, but they exist. The building costs, water costs, lighting costs, cleaning personnel costs. Sorry to say, reactor costs. You have depreciation of equipment, which is also you need to consider. And all other things, you can easily double the sum over there. So, well, simple MOOC developed in France costs 100,000 euro. At the same time, there's also data which allows you to compare different ways of delivering education depending on number of students. Classical delivery, blended mode, and MOOC. For classical delivery, 1 hour lecturing in the theater a week plus 1 meeting in a smaller group, 50 learners. For blended learner, it's 1 teacher, biweekly meetings. And of course, they also applied French standards, which means that 1 hour face-to-face contact of a teacher with students in a theater requires 6 hours of preparation. When it comes to smaller groups, it's 4 hours of preparation. So the modeling was done, data collected, and they built such graphics. This is costs of traditional, classical way of teaching. This is MOOC. I mean, the cost of delivery of MOOCs is not dependent on number of students. Very low degree of interactivity, so you just... And this is blended, where you combine traditional MOOC plus interactive face-to-face interactions. And as you see, if the number of learners is within 200-300, traditional, classical, well-proven, our dear way of teaching in the classroom is still cheaper. And only with raising numbers, the let's say electronic education becomes economically more reasonable. Still, when it comes to blended learning, it becomes better economically than traditional classical way with significant number of learners. It's 650 learners. So it means, again, you need to decide. And business model and business planning allows you to foresee and estimate how many people will take your course. If it's 100 people, probably it doesn't make sense to invest in MOOC or any kind of technology-supported education. But if the number grows, potentially it might be a chance that you say, yes, it makes sense. Yeah, when it comes to revenue streams, this is, I would say, I have only one slide for that because this is completely, I would say, undecided in the community what would be the future. The clear trend is that all major MOOC providers, they bet on having money from certificates. This is the way they see how they will return their investments. Of course, in-kind support of universities. It's done in an invisible way, providing just teachers, providing just personnel, providing infrastructure for MOOC development in kind. But sometimes it's also done in a way of direct investments. For instance, you know that MIT, they invested directly 60 million euro investment into the edX platform. I don't believe that it will happen again in some other place, but still this is possible. People say that probably the development of MOOC will follow the development of social media, and very soon one of the monetization instruments will become kind of a campaign advertisement, which you see now everywhere in social media like Facebook or YouTube. We still speak about millions of people who take courses, and it means it's quite a significant audience for advertisement industry, and it might be the future, but there are no cases noticed so far. So, but maybe it will change. Well, the new way of earning money is, of course, development of MOOCs by order of corporations or corporate clients. If you know, Coursera opened a program which is called For Businesses, and they promote also particular courses oriented towards business audience. They have special plans for enterprises which would pay for their workers to take these courses. They have two categories of enterprises from 5 to 1,000 people, and from 1,000 people to 100,000 people. Different models, financial models. So the companies can subscribe. It's already there. It was announced a few months ago, but you can look into the website of Coursera and find it. Nobody knows how it will work. There are no figures. There are no economic data on it. But analytics believe that this is also one of the future directions. So I think this is what I wanted to say today. Again, I would ask you to come back to the business model canvas and complete it for your own sake, for your own interest, and for your own kind of practice at home. Yes, and if you have questions, I am on your service. And if you have questions now, I'm here. Thanks.